on. Okay, we're live. Did it tell you we're live? We're live. We're live. We're live.
Why am I fuzzy? Oh, there we go.
You are fuzzy. Why are you fuzzy? Are you
Too much
clear now?
eggnog.
Are you getting yourself clear?
Yes.
We're live.
Yes. I'm for the holidays this year. I'm going clear.
For the holidays this year, I'm going to join Scientology.
Yeah.
No,
You
I'm
know
not.
that I went by this place in a shopping mall and they had a couple of tin cans hooked up to some stuff and they said that it'd be best for everybody.
It'd be best for everybody if you got clear it up there. We're here. It is not drunk cam, although I do have some wine. I am celebrating the end of the year and trying to reduce the holiday stress levels just a little bit. Just a little bit. Why do we do this to ourselves once a year?
Set insanely high expectations.
Yeah.
And then don't
expectations.
and then don't put time aside to actually meet them. So this is the thing.
That's it. No, I have a very optimistic idea of what time looks like in the future. That is
absolutely
the reality. Yes.
Yeah. I definitely think that there's a hole the shape of time twice as large in every amount of time that I set aside. In the next hour, I'm going to get my oil changed and I'm going to go shopping and I'm going to clean my apartment. Oh, there she goes. Uh-oh. Well, she'll be back momentarily. In case anyone may have noticed, Justin, we are without a Justin tonight. But that's okay. The show must go on. The holidays got him.
Go on. The holidays got Justin. They took him down early.
Yeah.
It's early. They took him down. Do you like I've got my nice.
It's very festive.
My I should be wearing a Christmas hat or something. You've got your Hanukkah. No, it's not Hanukkah. It's your Star Wars Hanukkah sweater.
That's why I bought it. Is because it's Hanukkah colors, but I have an AT-AT on there.
Star Wars Hanukkah, and I'm working on I'm like the drab holiday. But let's have it. Let's have a drab, festive holiday concoction all together. Shall we start a show?
Should we set some expectations also, because people are saying that our show is going to be an hour longer because we're starting early? No,
that's not the plan.
This is like an amuse bouche. This is a little bit of twist to get you through the holidays until the new year. That's what this is.
That is what this is. This is a little bit more twist than normal. Well, it's still one episode less than you would normally get because we're not going to be broadcasting next week. But this is going out this week. The podcast will come out probably on Thursday. And so it'll tide people over a little bit better. And it'll be fun. Looking back is always a good time. Always a good time. Oh my goodness. But it does indeed this year make me feel a little bit aged. I'm feeling
a whole decade is feeling
aches
like a lot.
And pains and oh my God. Yes, there's a lot. We will talk about these lots. And who knows how long it will take. It could take an hour longer than normal.
No, I'm going to go ahead and say no on that.
Put the kibosh on it, huh, Blair?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Plus, Justin would be very upset if we did an hour extra of show and he missed it.
Serves him right.
Oh my goodness.
Dude, okay. If I move this way, I'm in the middle. I'm going to be in the middle. I'm going to get in the middle somehow. My camera keeps moving because my family comes and plays down here and I have to move around and then things are uncentered. I'm always uncentered. But let's start a show, shall we? Beginning in 3, 2. This is TWIS. This Week in Science, episode number 752, recorded on Monday. That's right, Monday, December 23rd, 2019. A science decade in review. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Kiki, and tonight on This Week in Science, we will fill your heads with the past. It's time for that. But first, disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. There are moments in time when looking to the past brings perspective, and even more importantly, nostalgia. Nostalgia's pretty important. It's been a decade since the 2000s turned to 2010, so let's look back in order to begin again with the science that you have enjoyed on This Week in Science. Coming up next in a moment. Next, because I forgot to open the file. This is slow, Kiki. Here comes the music. Coming up next.
I've got the kind of mind that can't get enough. I wanna learn everything. I wanna fill it all up with new discoveries that happen every day of the week. There's only one place to go to find the knowledge I seek. I wanna know what's happening. What's happening? What's happening this week in science? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening this week in science?
Good science to you, Kiki.
And a good science to you too, Blair. And everyone out there. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Science. We are back again to talk about all the science that happened in the last decade. It's going to be a really long show, everyone. Get ready. No, we're not going to make it that long. But it's the end of a decade. Blair,
Yeah.
can you even begin to believe this? I'm having issues.
Especially since I was around for a lot of this particular decade, it's very hard for me to think that it's been that long. But
Yeah.
it doesn't feel that long ago, but it sure
No.
was.
I mean, when you start getting to be as old as I am, you'll start to understand how things just start blending together.
Yeah. That's time will have all of our goats in the end. Is that the saying? No, that's not right.
Time is the goat.
Time is the goat.
Time is the
a
goat.
bitter mistress. No, that's not it.
No, time is a goat. Time is the goat.
Time is a goat.
That's it, the goat.
Yes.
Everyone, we are going to discuss the last decade, so I hope you're ready to hit memory lane a little bit when it comes to science. And as we jump into the show, if you are not yet subscribed to This Week in Science, you can do so on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook, and we are all places that podcasts are found. Look for This Week in Science. And if you want information about the show, you can go to TWIS, TWIS.org, twis.org. At the website, you can also find a link to purchase the 2020 Blair's Animal Corner calendar. The orders have been coming in for the end of the year. So if you want to get them while the supplies last, because when they're gone, they're gone. No more. So make sure you get in there. Also, January 16th, we will be in San Francisco at SF Sketchfest at the Cal Academy of Sciences at their nightlife event, doing our podcast live. So if you're in the San Francisco Bay Area, go to the SF Sketchfest website and get a ticket. Get a ticket. Get your ticket today. We hope to see you there.
Such a fun event. I'm looking forward to it.
So fun. I'm really looking forward to it as well. Yeah. But this is looking forward when in fact it is the time to look back.
Yes. Truth.
It is the time to ponder the past. And let's take the time machine. I don't know why that was my time machine music, but that's my time machine music. Back to the year 2010.
Ooh, 2010.
2010.
What was going on in 2010?
Right? You weren't even born yet. No, wait, that's not true.
Yes, I'm a clone with advanced aging, so I'm actually only 8.
That's right. Well, my son was not born yet. It was the beginning of a decade, and I had no idea I was going to become a mother. I was delving into the world of talking about science. And what did we learn about that year? Oh, my goodness. So big stories from 2010. The Large Hadron Collider in 2010 was already going. It got itself going, and it started off with protons, just spinning protons around, and then switched to lead ions, which is when it really started being able to do the work that the LHC has become so famous for. Antimatter atoms were stored for the very first time in 2010, which makes future experiments that we talked about during the last decade in TWIS possible. So that was really huge. Oh my goodness, space, the Falcon 9 and Dragon capsule, that was the year that they launched. The first year that SpaceX tested, that they launched the Dragon capsule up in the air and down. Oh, look, it was successful. They weren't even rendezvousing with the International Space Station yet. 2010. It was pretty exciting. This was also the year in which NASA slammed a spacecraft into the surface of the moon, and that in doing that, it shot up a bunch of regolith, and that regolith contained a bunch of water ice. They had two craft, one that crashed into the moon on purpose, and the other one that was still orbiting around the moon taking pictures, and it was able to take really good spectroscopy and other images that clearly indicated that there's ice on the moon, water ice.
Water ice.
And so that was when we went, whoa, there's water on the ice. That was 2010.
Wow.
We started looking at our sun. The Solar Dynamics Observatory was in place in 2010, allowed us our first glimpse of what the surface of the sun really looks like from up close. We started, our first peak, Voyager, was getting up to the edge of the solar system. Voyager had not even crossed the edge of the solar system yet. We had started finding exoplanets already. The Keppler mission was working. So we knew there were exoplanets, but we found our first Earth-sized Goldilocks planet, a planet that is Earth-like in the sense that it could support biological life, organic life. Some pretty exciting stuff there. What were some other things that we started to do? We started looking at Saturn's moons. Cassini was taking really good pictures then. It was there taking really great pictures. Robots were awesome. So that was a big year for prostheses. Berkeley Bionics came out with its E-legs. Researchers were beginning to try and restore vision in the blind. Retinal implants became a thing. And we started finding, getting robot skin that could feel, touch, sensory surfaces for robots. And then they found, what was it? There was it was a big year because of the Lancet paper. This was, I think, our number 11 on the top countdown from 2010. But they retracted, the Lancet retracted the 1998 paper by Andrew Wakefield that suggested that vaccines caused autism. It was the year 2010, a decade ago, the year of the retraction.
That's interesting for two reasons. One, because it took 12 years from the publication for it to get retracted. That seems too long. But
I know, right?
Second, that I really feel like the huge swell in anti-vax movement was
been
after
since then.
this. Yes.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Yeah, right? What the heck?
Looking back on this, that makes no sense at all. Come on.
I think the last decade is going to generally be known for what the heck.
You know,
why?
What the heck?
What the heck? Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, so that was 2010.
There was
a
2010.
decade ago. Yeah. Yeah, isn't that? I mean, I think the looking back 10 years ago, it's a very it's an interesting view on where we were, and I don't know, thinking about where we are now.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that it's an interesting mixture so far of things that feel like they just happened and things that feel like that was only 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's funny.
We
Well,
ready for
yeah, I'm going to
2011?
let you do 2011 cuz I didn't exist yet.
I know you still weren't born. And neither was Kai.
Yeah.
I have right.
Ready for 2020.
You're ready for 2020. Kai's
Happy
ready.
Christmas, Happy New Year.
So this child who's eating pizza, grabbing a book, shouting behind me, he in 2011 was the year that Kai came into the world. It is. So,
Technically, I existed in.
oh, you existed in my belly in 2010. That's true. It's true.
So technically,
Technically.
But then you have to ask when life begins, and we don't want to have that conversation right now.
technically, I came into existence.
Look, why not? We could have that conversation. It's a decade in review show. It's not a conversation about the moment at which life begins.
Right. Yeah. Let's talk about our top 11 instead
When life began,
of 2011.
that's when I was created.
There you go. When it began, yes. Who knows? Butterflies, quantum butterflies, effects, yes. 2011. It's the year that Kai came into the world. And it is a year in which we first had quantum teleportation, quantum teleporter breakthroughs. That was the year researchers were starting to transfer quantum packets of information from one location to another, these wave packets. So it was a very exciting time in technology, and we know that a lot has occurred over the last decade in quantum teleportation and quantum computing. 2011, what else happened? Oh, it was a big fight against diseases. And also the fight against aging. There was a lot of research into aging. We deemed it the year of the vampire because it was the year in which a lot of the blood of the young children research started.
That old chestnut.
That lovely chestnut, which I love. It really brings me joy.
Kiki, is this why you had a youngling?
Yes, for his blood. No. No.
I'm just saying it's an interesting coincidence.
No, I mean, I hope he'll take care of me when I'm a lot older.
Oh, my.
Winky dink? You decide. But it was a year of research into malaria vaccines, into HIV, antiretroviral treatments, looking into universal virus cures. There was a lot going on. Fracking came onto the scene in a big way in 2011. It was fracking itself was our number 8 from the top 10 of 2011.
Now, do you happen to remember if that was conversation about what fracking does to the planet or just fracking?
No, it wasn't.
Developments in fracking.
No, it was the beginning of fracking of geological perturbations as a result of fracking. It was a lot of earthquakes started popping up in different places, and we started seeing there were also emissions. It was a year of a lot of interesting news. There was dark matter news in 2011. Science was hinting at dark matter. We still don't know what dark matter is. Hyabusa was a big thing in 2011. The Japanese spacecraft that landed on an asteroid came back and crashed. And then let's see, we also had the Watson, was the IBM computer. That was 2011. We also had carbon nanotubes making synapses. So we were questioning whether or not the robots would replace us or whether they would be us.
Mm-hmm.
We found out a lot about the microbiome in 2011 and its importance for human health. And 2011, we saw a lot about extreme weather increases and Arctic sea ice loss. Things were starting to heat up a lot in 2011, and we were starting to see the effects. The Large Hadron Collider found a particle. There was more antimatter trapped. 2011 was a big one. They were searching. The LHC found a particle. They hadn't found the Higgs yet. Still looking for the Higgs.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but my favorite story, the potentially faster than light neutrinos, because this was a story that came out in the fall of 2011. And the researchers were still trying to figure out what happened and whether their faster than light neutrinos were a real thing. And then they did all the data processing and looked into all the equipment and discovered that there was a cable that wasn't plugged in. And that happened in 2012. So the equipment was the issue, and they were getting incorrect measurements as a result. Yeah, but
Here's
it was very
the problem with humans doing science.
It was very exciting for a while to think that there were these faster than light particles that were.
Oh my God.
Oh, darn
That
it.
is hilarious.
Yeah. Yep. And then we Keppler started delivering big time. Lots of potentially habitable planets. We sent a craft to Mercury. The New Dawn mission was launched. There was a lot going on in planet science. And that was 2011. Yeah. I know, flying out in the chat room was saying, "Oh, I hope they found the Higgs."
Shh, don't spoil it.
Shh, don't spoil it for anyone out there. And 2012 is kind of this important year in TWIS history because that's the year that Blair joined us.
It's true.
It's true.
Yeah, I started in January. I'm not sure exactly what episode, I forget, but in January 2012 is when I started. Just as an intern in the background.
You just sit there and be quiet and take notes, Blair.
I'll just find the links Justin's talking about.
I'm glad somebody did that once upon a time.
Yeah. Be like, that's kind of, let me just type in some keywords. Ah, here it is. I got very good at Googling during that period of time, but we can make fun of Justin because he's not here, but of course we love him. Okay, so in 2012,
what happened?
let's see. We talked about simulation. There was a simulation, complete computer model of a living organism. It had 530 billion neurons and 100 trillion synapses on a supercomputer. I don't really remember that. Ooh, Red Deer Cave people. I remember they were very big in 2012. Lots of that. We found apes with spears, and we pushed back the age of life on Earth. Let's see, we also had a story about cloaking and transporters. They were able to cloak an object from view for 40 trillionths of a second, successfully cloaking a three-dimensional object in the microwave region of the electromagnetic spectrum. So invisibility cloak, so that was cool. Not exactly, just, for 40 trillionths of a second.
And we
Invisibility.
can all see how that has worked out for all of us
Yeah, everyone's invisible all the time now.
all the time.
And
Yeah.
then we also had more news about quantum teleportation, transmitting photons. So more work on that. Ooh, number 8. I like this one. 3D printing goes mainstream. I love this. An artificial
Yes.
jaw was made using a 3D printer. They were able to 3D print microscopic structures out of individual molecules. They started 3D printing robots. There was the first 3D printer retail outlet, which seems insane
yeah.
to me that was only
That was MakerBot.
in 2012. Yeah,
Yeah.
and now you can get a
In
3D
New York
printer
City.
so easily.
Yep.
Yeah, a novel hybrid printer for creating implantable cartilage, and a 3D printer capable of manufacturing tools from lunar regolith. What's regolith?
It's the surface of the moon.
Oh, I don't recall that word.
Regolith.
But yes,
The surface
anyway,
of the moon.
so that means you could 3D print while you're on the moon.
Mhm.
That's great. Yeah, 3D printing became a pretty important thing in the 2010s, and I imagine it's going to be huge very soon, considering you can get a 3D printer now for just a few $100s. That, I mean, granted, it makes small things and takes a long time, but 3D printers are out there enough that I feel like things are going to get pushed kind of quicker through that system.
3D printers on a large commercial scale are already in use and are printing all sorts of things. But yeah, I mean, it's starting to affect more than just the hobbyists, I believe. I think it's starting to reach a point in society where people are building and making and using the printers that they're getting for more than just little trinkets. You know, that there's more coming out of them now, that the resolution of the printers now has gotten a lot better. But yeah, it's interesting to think that 2012, we were like,
yeah,
hey, 3D printers. What?
Well, just imagine all of the things that you have to specialty order in your life. If people start figuring out how to make those for yourself at home, it's going to disrupt certain
and
methods
the way that
we have in the world.
Right. And if if we're able to use materials that are reusable, and you have materials that go in to create something, and then you're done using it and you can recycle the materials to make something else that you need, you have a nice system.
Gosh, just imagine if something broke and you could just plop it into your 3D printer and make it again.
Right.
Oh, that'd be so cool. Anyway, but we're talking about what happened in the past.
That's the past. We want the future still.
Okay. So also, robotic arm was controlled by a paralyzed patient in the United Kingdom. Love that. There was a prototype of a bionic eye. There was work decoding thoughts in a human brain. So lots of brain stuff happening in 2012, trying to figure out what's going on in your brain just by looking at the synapses. And then, synthetic DNA compounds.
Ooh, yes.
Synthetic DNA began. Let's see. They sequenced the genome of an 18-week-old human fetus in the womb by taking blood samples from the mother.
That's big.
Yeah, absolutely. And also there was, let's see, stem cells. Lots and lots about stem cells. They had monkeys grown from cells taken from different embryos, eggs from stem cells. The repair of the myelin sheath, damaging and aging mice via stem cells, occurred in 2012. Oh, I love that. Oh, young blood into mice. It's also more vampires.
So the 2010s, it was the what's up with that and vampires decade.
Yes, absolutely. Of course, we talked about global warming. That's, just sea levels rising. It's getting hotter. Moving on. Number 2 was all about space. Again, we found exoplanets. So many exoplanets. There were new stars discovered. Voyager 1 entered interstellar space. The first human-made object to leave the solar
so
system.
it was 2012 that Voyager 1
Yes.
crossed the boundary.
Yeah.
It was the
Messenger
first.
probe discovered water and ice on Mercury.
Mm-hmm.
And Curiosity successfully landed on Mars. That was a big year.
Oh, that was a big one for me. I stayed. I was up to watch the landing, even though I couldn't watch the landing.
Yeah.
There's no camera on Mars, but I was so excited. I was the 7 minutes of terror. Do you remember
yes.
they talked
Yes.
about the Curiosity landing? That was
Yeah.
so huge for me. I was
Don't
so
crash,
excited
don't crash,
about it.
don't crash.
Yeah.
And then, this was huge too. This also happened in 2012. My goodness. The detection of part of the invisible dark matter scaffolding of the universe.
Yes.
Yes. And then number 1 was the Higgs in the Standard Model. Data suggests that the elusive hypothesized Higgs boson might have been detected.
So it hadn't been yet.
No, there is
Ugh.
indirect evidence supporting the existence of the Higgs. So we almost found the
So
Higgs.
2012, we almost found the Higgs.
Yeah. But we
Almost
did
had it.
find evidence for dark matter scaffolding, and Curiosity landed on Mars. I think that is pretty darn important.
Oh, that's huge. Yeah. And as forever, climate change.
Climate change. Listen,
Climate change.
every year we found out, hey, guess what? It's bad.
It's bad.
Hey, you know how we said it was bad before? Turns out,
getting
hey,
worse.
it's bad. How many years did we have to have that conversation before things started changing? Wait, still.
I mean, we can go back over a decade of twist shows talking about climate stuff.
Well, and this actually leads to number 11 from 2013 perfectly, if you would like to take a gander at that.
What was?
If you just tuned in, you're listening to This Week in Science. Tonight, we are joined by Dr. Kiki, as always, and myself, Blair Bazdarich, and we are looking at the last decade of our best of shows. So this is kind of a weird version of a clip show where we reminisce over the past 10 years of top 11 stories of each year. So we're at 2013. What do you got?
What do I have? I want to stay in the past. I'm like looking at all these old stories and reminiscing now. Like, oh, the past.
The past.
It was such a wonderful time. I mean, in 2013, that was the year that the Supreme Court ruled that naturally occurring genes are not patentable. That was important. But, oh, hey, on top of it, there was a big U.S. budget sequester that cut and shut down science.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was implying, is that we had some slows and some backpedals over the past 10 years, at least in our fair country. I mean, overall, I still feel like it's forward progress, but I do feel like it's been quite a bit of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's been a lot of that.
Oh, and it always will be. I mean, that's...
Oh, yeah.
The pendulum swings.
It's when there's
Progress is
short-term
not an easy
gains to ignoring what's happening. And there are long-term gains to addressing it.
Yes.
That's always going to happen.
The balance between them is very difficult. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, but, you know, science did carry on, even though there were some political, monetary struggles going on in there. Microbes were huge in 2013.
Well, they were tiny, but they were important.
They were important, yes. Hugely important. This is when we found in subglacial Antarctic Lake Vostok, which had been buried in ice for 15 million years, that samples of the lake's water contained DNA from over 3,000 little tiny organisms. From 15 million years ago. This was a big one. We were also able to sequence the genomes of a couple hundred microbe species, Researchers were looking into relationships between microbes and the gut. They were able to make chubby mice skinnier by switching microbes between skinny mice and chubby mice. The gut transplants.
So since you brought it up, I also want to take a brief second to acknowledge genomic sequencing and how different it
Yes.
is from 10 years ago.
Oh my goodness, we have come leaps and bounds over. Yeah.
So scientists sequencing 201 microbe species in 2013 is huge, but now I feel like you could do that in a couple days.
Yeah. We're doing that every couple of days. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely a different ball game for that.
Completely different ball game. Researchers discovered that microbes unfrozen after 750,000 years. They still lived. They died basically because their bodily functions had ceased. Active DNA repair continued to keep things from falling apart. So they were able to survive. They unfroze them, and the microbes that were almost 1 million years old lived. And that was the year that we discovered that our bodies are mostly microbes.
Yes, which now seems like just common sense.
It does. Like,
But that's when
I've
we
known
learned
that haven't we known that forever? That's yes.
Apparently 7 years.
This was one of the first years, I think, that animal intelligence became really big on the list. Research. I wonder who had an influence on that.
Oh, how interesting. Just a
Yes.
year after I began.
We looked at crocodiles using tools to lure their prey.
I loved that story. Oh my God. Didn't they not only use tools, but they cooperated?
They cooperated, yes. Cooperating tool using crocodiles.
So good.
I recently saw a video of a bunch of baby crocodiles making these like
Yes.
they sound like they're making but it's this high pitched, really weird frequency sound that it sounds like you would imagine like laser beams being shot in a cave sound like.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
So
they were
good.
really, really very cute. I can't.
They
It's hard to reconcile the cuteness of baby crocodiles with the cooperating tool using
Yes.
adults that they become.
As long as they're not using that to lure us in. As long as those sticks that they're using aren't being made to look like a
No, they're
free
using-
Xbox. It's just a stick to
Yep.
look like a stick.
They're using their cute babies to lure us in.
Yeah.
Scientists reported that dolphins have unique names in 2013, that they know their names and respond like humans and dogs, and then also that primates whisper.
Mm-hmm.
That non-human primates have whispers with each other. They tell secrets. Climate change, again, very big. So that was the IPCC's 5th assessment report that came out. At that point, it was only a 95% probability that humans are the root cause of global warming.
That's because they hadn't debunked the other 5% yet.
Yeah,
I guess. I'm seeing also.
Yeah.
I'm reading ahead, Kiki. But this is the year we reached 400 ppm.
Yes, it was the year that we reached 400 ppm. And it was measured like one day on top of a very tall mountain in Hawaii. Mauna Kea. What?
Is it
I thought
Mauna
was
Loa?
Mauna Loa or Mauna Kea. One of the two. I don't know which one. There's a weather station and they do the measuring at the top, and I don't recall which one.
Yeah.
But yes, I think it's Mauna Kea. But at the top, at the very top, up in the high atmosphere, they measured 400 ppm for the first time, and it was a blip, and then it went back down again a little bit. But now it's now we are just over 400 at this point. We're at
I
like
would have guessed
413 or something.
I would have guessed that was way more recent.
No.
If you had asked me when we reached 400.
Yeah. I remember the day I read that report. I remember the day I read that story.
Well,
and it
'cause
made
that
me
was-
very sad.
That was that point of no return they picked at one point, but I'm convinced it's just because it's a nice round number. They're like 400. That sounds big.
It's a target. Yes.
Yeah.
It's a target.
It's a target.
Yeah. But away from the depressing thing, guess what physicists finally confirmed?
I bet it wasn't the Higgs.
It was the
Oh,
Higgs.
okay.
It was totally the Higgs.
Yeah, wasn't Justin every year predicting that the standard model would be refuted?
Yes. And then like 1 year, like for forever, he kept saying, no, no Higgs, no Higgs, no Higgs, no Higgs. And then he switched and he started and then he predicted, I think there's gonna be a Higgs. And so I decided to switch on him and I said, no, no Higgs. And that was the year that it was that they found it. So
Oh my gosh.
no, our predictions. There's competition in the predictions, in the prediction show.
Yeah,
Our
unless
first
you're
show
like
back.
me and I just predict aliens every year
That's right. It's just aliens.
in the form of tardigrades. So,
Yeah, some
you know.
little microbes for sure. Let's see. The National Ignition Facility, NIF, produced more energy from a fusion reaction than the fuel used to ignite it, which was very exciting because the National Ignition Facility had been trying to reach fusion and do all sorts of. They hit fusion, and to get more energy out was great, but it's not the kind of threshold that was super wonderful, exciting because they couldn't maintain it. They couldn't keep the ignition going. So it wasn't the kind of thing that was going to give us all instant fusion power forever, but they're still working on it. Hopefully they'll get there. I have dreams. One of the fusion experiments on this planet is going to give us fusion power. And it's going to be amazing. The Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory, which I think is, and yes, it's a pun, but the coolest observatory on the planet. This is the one that's like a kilometer square block of the clearest ice on the entire planet. And they dug these pits into it and they put the detector array in this ice. And so they use the ice to keep everything cold and it's part of their detector array. And they have been looking for neutrinos. 2013, they found neutrinos from outside the solar system, not just from nuclear reactions and other stuff happening here on our planet. It was very exciting. I was very excited about that one. Thrilled. Epigenetics were a huge thing. We also saw toxoplasmosis, that you could get it with or without a cat.
Right.
That
Otters.
oocysts, had been found in otters because they were swimming in the water, which means that toxo might be in the water supply. Woohoo! It was the year of discovering that we don't really have control over a lot of things that we think we do. Your brain makes decisions before you have consciously made it. So this is a year that scientists really started finding that the unconscious brain activity, measuring that, they could predict what was going to happen before the person was even aware that they were going to make the choice that they were going to make. There's brain activity in there. Yeah. Also, yes, another fight against aging year. It was a big year of extending the lives of worms. That's exciting. And mice. Worms and mice, they lived longer in 2013. Woohoo! Big year for space. Meteors, comets, exoplanets, new space was big. We had Deep Space Industries announcing plans to mine asteroids for precious metals starting in 2015. My silence is just putting a point
that didn't
on that
happen.
one. No, it hasn't
No.
happened. No, nobody's mining asteroids
didn't.
yet. But it's that's what they said they were going to do. When you're a startup, you have to go big or go home.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like they went home.
Orbital Sciences had the maiden flight of its Antares rocket, launched and docked the first Cygnus spacecraft with the International Space Station. China's Chang'e 3 rover Jade Rabbit landed successfully on the moon. We also had a lot of Earth-like exoplanets, water in the atmospheres of many of those exoplanets. Mm-hmm. Voyager 1, really, really, truly interstellar in 2013. We also, of human evolution was huge for that year. And Blair, it was the year of slugs stabbing each other in the head.
Yes. A date that will go down in infamy.
Yes.
I will never be the same in the best possible way. It's really, though, it just puts a whole new perspective on invertebrate sex,
Yeah.
on insemination, on hermaphrodite behavior, and on slugs.
And on slugs.
I'm so thankful to This Week in Science that it was able to provide me with this lifelong lesson and powerful moment. I really will never be the same. And this sounds very
You know what?
facetious, but
None
it's
of us will
true.
be.
It's really true. I learned about traumatic insemination because of this show.
You're welcome.
I'm
You
so
are
thankful.
all welcome.
Fascinating. I'm fascinated.
Fascinating. Oh, hey, also a 14-hour sex spree for suicidal marsupials.
Oh, yeah, those.
Yeah.
Yeah. They just had sex until their body fell apart.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. As you do.
That's an interesting strategy.
Mhm.
It is. It is. Okay, let's move on. 2014. Let's do it.
Oh my goodness, 2014. Let's see what we have. We have quantum teleportation again.
Again. I know. It
Yes.
came back again.
Let's see.
teleported.
It sent information over leaps and bounds, quote unquote. Whatever that meant. Gravitational waves. It's the first time they showed up in our countdown. Right? In 2014. Gravitational waves became a big part of the show for a while. I feel like we were talking about it almost every week. But they first made the scene here. We also found water in Earth's mantle in 2014. So there's that. Engravings on a 430,000-year-old shell suggest that Homo was a lot more complicated than we thought.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's a whole bunch of gene therapy. There's gene therapy restoring sight. There is gene modification in monkey embryos. And there is gene modification in adult mice with liver disorders.
That's interesting. It's really interesting because there wasn't a lot of that in years prior. Even though there were stories, there were the odd stories, but it wasn't. I think, it's interesting to see that 2014 was a year that the gene therapy really started to take hold.
Absolutely. And then we had some animal stuff again this year. This is the year we found out not only that crocodilians use tools and cooperate, but they also climb trees. This was also the emergence of a story that I've actually referenced many times on the show and I think about all the time. It was a social experiment with rats where they would save the type of rat that they were raised around, not necessarily the type of rat that they were. So if you took a white rat and you raised them with a bunch of black rats, they saw a black rat in trouble and a white rat in trouble, they would save the black rats. So this was a very interesting kind of reflection on how social relationships have such a grand impact on animals of all types. And fish can remember where they fed 12 days ago. So fish have a lot longer memory than we thought. Let's see. We also had space launches. Orion launched. Antares exploded.
Yeah,
and there was
that was
and there
bad.
was a Spaceship 2 accident as well.
So those successes and losses.
Yes. Ebola exploded onto the scene in 2014, and we got an Ebola vaccine in 2014. which that also feels so far in the rear view for me. I think about Ebola vaccines and how there are these larger conversations about how to make them more widely available, as though it's something that we've had around for a long time and we just haven't had the means to get it to people, but it's still pretty new. So
It is very new, and I find it really interesting that this it was 2014. I mean, this last year, 2019, one of our stories, big ones, was again Ebola vaccines, that they were actually successfully using these Ebola vaccines that have been under study for the past 5 years, 6 years. So it's interesting to see. Okay, they did the phase 1 trial back in 2014, and now these things are starting to really have a real world effect, much wider spread on the disease, and allowing us to really fight this disease.
Yeah, and I think even though it's pretty new, I think it came, I'm not going to say at the right time because there was lots of bad stuff happening. I'm going to say anything about this was right, but I think it was one of those moments where the Ebola breakout was top of mind to everyone, and so once the vaccine existed, a lot of resources and focus went to this one thing. And so it was able to move really quickly, which was really great. There was lots of interesting developments in genetics this year. So there was a new family tree for birds that showed a big bang in bird evolution after the dinosaurs went extinct. There was a human protein catalog published that could more easily look at kind of the way cancer develops and look at
proteome.
Yeah, the proteome. And then also lots of cool stem cell stuff. One of my favorites is that they could create stem cells from a single drop of blood, which means a finger prick could result in stem cell banking, which is insane to me. We haven't seen much in the way of that yet. And then, stem cells were also used to create an operating organ and a fish embryo. Came from fish stem cells, but still. And then, human skin cells reprogrammed directly into brain cells that integrated into the brain successfully. Yeah, I feel like we talk about this a lot too. We talk about just grab some skin and go for it. We're in a very interesting age with stem cells, because for so long the entire conversation just turned into a conversation of, yeah, but how do you get them though? Like, is it from babies? Like, that's no good. So yeah, so now you can just take a skin scraping and you're good to go.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
It is.
Let's see.
Stem cells are big.
There was lots of space exploration in 2014. Cassini turned 10. It detected water on Enceladus. Keppler got a second chance and started finding planets.
Yeah, they were going to. It was a short-lived mission, and they were going to what is it, moonlight it, where they end the mission, but then they decided to keep it going. They gave it more time, gave it more resources. And they kept going, and they found a lot more. That was cool.
Yeah. And back to Curiosity, who we talked about at the end of just the 2 years ago. The Curiosity found organic compounds and methane on Mars. So that's
cool.
Kind of a big
and I remember
deal.
that was it became a big question as to whether or not the methane was coming from a biological source underground, like bacteria, or whether it is from an inorganic source, like whether there's some other geologic process that is contributing to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then number 1 for 2014 was all synthetic biology. An artificial cell with organelles was created. The debut of XNA was in 2014.
Yeah. We made it up.
Yes.
DNA that we made up. I love it.
Yeah. Synthetic chromosomes were created in yeast cells, and synthetic DNA was used to create a partially synthetic bacterial organism. So
Yeah. And
I think that this
the
hasn't
big
moved
question was, are we
too
making
far.
life? What are we doing?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
feel like this hasn't really moved since 2014. Like there's research
Mhm.
happening and we talk about it on the show, but it hasn't
Yeah.
got to this existential crisis of a question yet.
Which I find interesting because these early studies, and there are a lot of these researchers and companies and institutions that are very good at the PR and, you know, marketing their stuff and making it sound really, really amazing.
Mhm.
And the next step is going to be, we're going to do what we said we were setting out to do in the next year. We're going to do this. And then you sit and you wait and you wait and you wait and you wait because science is actually a lot slower and more methodical than the news cycle would have you believe.
Yes. True.
And so it is, yeah, that's an interesting aspect of looking back is going, okay, 2014, they were starting to create partially synthetic bacterial organisms, taking the DNA out of one organism, putting it into another, creating their own, you know, creating their own genes, their own genome sequences, putting them in. But we still have not gotten to the point where a few years back, I was sitting in a synthetic biology conference and George Church was there saying, we are going to be printing, was it George Church or the other guy? No, it was some other guy. It was some other dude. But anyway, another big name I can't remember, was saying we are going to be having DNA printers on the moon, on the International Space Station. We'll be printing the DNA that we need for the organisms that we want to create to carry out functions for us. And he was saying it's just going to happen in like a year or two. We're not there yet. Maybe getting there eventually, but we're not there yet. We don't have biological printers on Mars.
No.
It's
No, we do not.
happening.
No.
I think sometimes being in the middle of the churn of science, it feels like it's happening and things are changing so quickly. And then looking back, you realize, oh, I mean, there have been big steps taken, but they took a long time to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And the change that we're watching happen is also taking a long time to get to where it's going.
Yeah, I wonder how many times we said on the show, like, this changes everything. And it didn't change anything. It happens,
Yeah, it happens. Oh, synthetic biology. Is it time for us to take a break?
It is.
It is. We've gone from 2000... We've gone from 2010 to 2014, and we are going to now move on to a short break. And when we come back, we will do the last 5 years of the 2010s. They're kind of little Portland drink koozie.
It's so cute.
Thanks, family. Okay, time to take a break. Yay! Stay tuned. There will be more This Week in Science in just a few moments. Stay tuned for more Blast from the Past coming up.
We can explain things we've heard with more than intuition. A line breeze that shows the way to go. New conclusion. The methods of hypothesis.
Thank you for joining us tonight on This Week in Science for this blast to the past of science. It's been a lot of fun so far, and I know that the last half of the show is going to be a lot of fun as well. The last decade, I'm looking back and going, wow. So many of you have been with us for the last decade. Some of you joined us more recently. Some of you have been with us for the last week. It doesn't matter. Welcome to the family. Thank you for being a part of our science family. We really, really could not do this show without you. I mean, why would we do it? I mean, I do love talking about the science, but that would be talking to nobody if you weren't there. And also, you support this show and you help this show really happen. Your donations through Patreon, through PayPal, the purchases of the calendar, you know, the things that you do, the ways that you help, all the little ways you make this show possible. And I love seeing all of you in the chat room, being able to say hello when you're in the chat and talking with us. And when you send emails and, you know, all the fun out there. So on this Decade in Review show, I just really want to say thank you for being a part of my life and for making TWIS possible. Couldn't do it without you. Thank you for your support.
Can't explain things you've heard with more than intuition. A lot of research.
And we're back. You're listening to This Week in Science. And what are we doing tonight, Kiki? It's Monday. Why are we here?
Why are we here on a Monday? Oh dear. Yes, we are here on a Monday because later this week is the 25th and it's a holiday and I think we're taking some time off. So that everyone out there doesn't really miss TWIS for 2 weeks because the New Year's Day is also it's always on a Wednesday. And so you're not missing us that much. We wanted to get this show in. And we think it's just awesome to be able to look back at the last decade and kind of reminisce and think about where we've been and where we're going. So without any further ado, let us continue our countdown of the years. I guess now we're counting up, not counting down. We counted down last week. We're counting up this week. 2015.
2015. Oh, 2015 was the first year where we were selling a Blair's Animal Quarter calendar, actually.
Oh, it was. We were selling it for 2016.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Which, if I can just get sappy for a second and say that as a young person who fancied herself an artist and then was told that I couldn't be an artist because I'm colorblind, and then later in life said, no, I'm going to do it anyway. And then I just started doodling on my own. And then I recognized I had 12 of them, 12 of these doodles after doodling in 2014 and 2015, and chatted with Kiki and we made a calendar. And now I actually have a reason to do art. I'm like an artist now. And I think I wish I could tell my 25 years ago version of myself that, speaking of going back in time, that this is going to happen, because I feel like it would have made her so happy. And it makes me really happy. And so I really appreciate everybody that supports this process and this endeavor. Okay, we can talk about science. Kiki, are you with us? Oh, not with us. Okay, I'm going to start 2015. Oh. Yep, that's good.
They're so cute. Am I back?
Yeah.
I can't hear you, though.
Oh, no.
Okay, 1 minute. I'll be right back. Something's not right.
Oh, no. We had a crash.
Unless I messed something up. Say something?
Testing 1, 2.
No.
No? Oh,
I can't
no.
hear you.
Chat room, you can hear me, right? I'm fine. I didn't touch anything. Okay. Interesting. Kiki? Oh, now we can't hear you. Okay. So it's just me. Well, that was fun. Let's look. I'm having the Blair show. Let's look through the calendar. I want to see if there's any oh, so there's an alligator, which we just talked about crocodilians a bunch on the show. So that's pretty fun that he's in there. I'm just trying to see. Oh, we talked about synthetic fish embryos. See, look at that. Haha. We have let's see. Ooh,
Look who's
Hellbender.
back.
Oh, you're back. Okay,
Yeah.
I was vamping. Oh no.
Look who's back.
Okay.
I really need to figure out this hourly problem.
So I waxed
Mhm.
poetic about the calendars for a
calendar.
minute.
Great.
And then we can talk about 2015.
All right, let's talk about 2015. I am thrilled to go back to 2015. We went to New York City in 2016. We also had a Blair's Animal Corner calendar in 2016. And in 2015, the Paris climate talks resulted in a stricter agreement than previous meetings.
Yes, the Paris Climate Agreement.
The Paris Climate Agreement was, we're going to only allow an increase in temperature of climate from pre-industrial levels of 1.5 degrees rather than 2 degrees. And developed nations would help pay for undeveloped nations to do better. How are we doing on that, Blair?
Well, some groups are doing really well on that, but some nations, like the United States, have pulled out of the Paris Agreement.
Great.
However, silver lining, certain states and certain cities are staying in. And so, was it last year? I got to go to the We Are Still In convention, which was part of the Climate Week in San Francisco, and it was a bunch of mayors and governors and company heads. Like I think the CEO of McDonald's was there, and a bunch of groups have decided to stay in. So actually, I would argue this was a really great thing. It set a real goal that wasn't just like, hey, will you sign this thing that says that we care about this? It actually had specific actions tied to it, and it's created a good starting point to have this conversation. And even if as a nation we are not participating at this point, there are other groups that are. For example, my own state of California is currently participating in the Paris Agreement. So that's good.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can do it different ways, and we've talked about that before on the show. It's true.
Yeah, so I think this is actually a pivotal moment, the climate agreement in Paris. Yeah.
Paris was pivotal. It was a big year, 2015. And then it was also the hottest year on record at that time.
Not the last time that occurred.
No. 2015, though, that was the year that everyone went, oh, it's hot. What? But then beyond the climate issues, we had some really exciting scientific news for human health and possible cures for things. Again, an AIDS monkey vaccine. Like this year, we started talking about HIV vaccines. It was a vaccine that worked really well for simian immunodeficiency virus in monkeys. There was a possible H5N1 cure, single dose Ebola vaccine. We still don't have it, but researchers were really starting to work on the universal flu vaccine, really starting to try and get everything into one shot to help people be able to fight the flu better. And another one that I don't know how it's how well it has made it into current day, but at the time it was an idea of it was prototyped to be able to freeze dry vaccines.
I
So that
loved this story. Yeah.
yeah, the possibility of being able to just if you have water on hand, be able to rehydrate a vaccine and have it available, and if it's dehydrated or freeze dried, it would be its shelf life would be astronomical for a very long time.
Yes.
Yeah, we started making ribosomes. Synthetic biology was big. We created synthetic ribosomes. These are the organelles responsible for assembling RNA into proteins. And so it's another part of the puzzle of creating our own organisms. Can we do it? Prosthetics were huge, really big. Astronauts on the International Space Station virtually shook hands with a person on Earth as a result of haptics. It was a virtual handshake, a robotic arm on the space station interfaced with an arm on Earth, and the grip was similar. It was all through from space to Earth. There was a memory prosthetic device that people were looking at to potentially help people with damage to the hippocampus, to help them form new memories if they had problems forming them.
So cool.
There was also a DARPA prosthesis that was a prosthetic hand allowing information to be conveyed back to the sensory cortex of the brain so that the user could feel what's in their hand, in their prosthesis, in their prosthetic.
So you combine that with the thing from a couple years ago where you can control a prosthetic that's linked to your brain, and then you also throw in there the robot skin that can feel touch, and you're just all there. You're good.
You're good. You are. Water in space was huge in 2015. NASA reported that they found salty water flowing on the surface of Mars. They also found water all over the place, not just in the cold, dark shadows. And they think it came from asteroids all over the moon. And the Saturnian moon Enceladus was found to have a vast ocean beneath its frozen surface of salty water. Well, I think it was just in the last year or two that we really said we think that it's salty water, but that's what the assumption was once they discovered that it was an ocean on this Saturnian moon.
So this was something I had a lot of trouble, I don't know if grasping or accepting, with the water on the moon coming from asteroids, because the moon is Earth. So
yes.
How come?
Well, it also was during the Great Bombardment. It has the man on the moon, those are craters.
Right. I'm just saying if the Earth has water all over it and the moon is from the Earth, it could just be water from the Earth.
It could be, but they do not think so. They think it is. They do think that it is from asteroids and that it has a different time source, and that the Earth and the moon maybe
time source. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's a little both. It could be both.
It could be both. I mean, there's definitely going to be water in the minerals of the moon incorporated from the time before the moon was formed, right? Water on the Earth before that planetoid ran into us and billiard balled out the moon. That was such a hot period of time that a lot of water would have been vaporized. It would have been lost to space. But then at the same time, a lot of it, because of the heat and pressure that happened at that time, there would be a lot of water that would be integrated into the minerals themselves. And so there is not just water in the sense of, hey, it's water ice, but there's also water there's water incorporated into the minerals.
So it's both.
It's both. There's both, for sure. But they think, yeah, I think what they think is the asteroids have water, and the asteroids land on the moon. Hey, there's water there now. Ooh, we sent the Rosetta mission to Comet 67P Gerasimovich-Chermenko, and it ended up there. The Philae got there. The little lander woke up, sent information back to Earth, and I don't think that the lander had actually gotten to the comet yet, had actually landed on it, but they were looking at the comet, at this little comet, and they think there was a lot of water on it. And it was very interesting because we were looking at a comet. We had a craft for the first time around a comet, checking it out. The Rosetta Philae mission was very exciting. The beginning of an exciting time in astronomy. Dwarf planets were pretty cool. We were starting to look closer and closer at Pluto. We were looking, I think it was the New Horizons mission that year that got to Pluto. Was that the year? 2015? Wow. Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. Okay, so we were looking at volcanoes on Pluto, at potential atmosphere on Pluto. We're looking at Pluto's moons. They're also looking at dwarf planet Ceres. And so space astronomy was doing some very cool maneuvering around our solar system and taking a look at things that were going on around. And then microbiome was pretty big. We found out there were lots of viruses on and in babies that we didn't realize before. We always knew the microbiome. We figured bacteria, but also viruses. And they think that possibly a lot of those viruses are phages that attack bacteria. So it's bacterial viruses. Antibacterial substances given to babies. That was a year that we started seeing information about negative health effects lasting into adulthood from antibiotics and antibacterials during babyhood and childhood. I love this story, the personal microbe space. That we all have a microbial cloud that surrounds us. I just imagine that, and I still do, the idea of Pigpen, that there's this cloud of microbes surrounding me, and I can move my arm and waft them around in different directions.
If you really want to gross yourself out, think about the fact that that's probably the majority of your personal scent, good or bad. If you're like, that's what my
Microbes.
significant other smells like, for example,
Microbes.
it's their microbes.
Yes, it is. Oi. What did we figure out? Oh, this was a cool year. They swapped the diets of 20 African Americans and 20 rural Africans and found out that cancer risk profiles switched as well. And it looked as though this was pretty good evidence for a diet high in fiber and low in fat and protein being better for the gut. Fiber, good. Fiber, it's good. And human ancestry, it was a big year to find out that Australopithecus 3.8 million years ago may have been using tools. That it wasn't just Homo sapiens who had the tools, and that tool use may have got its start a long, long time ago. Which was very, very fascinating. And this was 2015. This is the year of the cave, when the cave was discovered in Africa, where really hard to reach, and it's just a cave of bones that they had to find very small archaeologists to climb into. To go study the bones, because it was such a small entryway to get in. There were very specific requirements for the individuals who got to work on this particular this study, but they discovered this amazing cave that suggested there is a new hominid species that we still don't know who it is. Researchers are still trying to figure that one out.
Oh my.
Cave of bones.
Cave of bones.
2015 was a year of CRISPR. Number one story of 2015, CRISPR, where Chinese scientists were beginning to try and use the CRISPR-Cas9 system to edit pre-implantation stage human embryonic cells. And we're looking at the possibility of being able to edit the human genome. We still were having the conversation about what CRISPR was going to be used for and how it was going to be used had not really come full circle yet. Researchers were starting to use gene editing to affect mosquito populations to try and figure out how to fight malaria and other mosquito diseases around the world. Yeah. 2015 was the year of researchers trying to bring the mammoth back.
Right. Yeah, where's Justin when we need him?
Yes.
That means it was the year of Justin and myself arguing about whether or not we should bring back mammoths as well.
Yep, pretty much. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
I was also a year of editing the editor, of trying to get Cas9 to be more efficient because there are all sorts of off-target effects of the CRISPR-Cas9 system. And so the big question was, how can we make it better at doing what we want it to do so that we can actually use it on people? The CRISPR being used to edit mosquitoes happened a few times, and it was the first year that we talked about CRISPR pigs. They started using CRISPR technology to remove genes from pigs. So,
and then putting them into mammoths? No.
Yeah, no putting them in. No mammoth pigs. We're not doing that.
None of that.
Yeah, and I think a big development, though, was a decision by the international gene editing community in 2015 to put a moratorium on editing human DNA. So it was the whole world got together and said, whoa, CRISPR can do all this stuff. It's a little bit more than we're using the zinc finger nucleases and the talons for, and we have these other gene editing techniques, but this new one is really making us stop and think for a second. And so, hey, everybody, let's all promise not to edit human cells. Let's fast forward a few years.
Things got a little tricky.
But before we do move forward, this was also a year of some fun Blair's Animal Corner stories.
Yes.
Skydiving spiders, sailing spiders. We also had great invertebrate sex. Again, it was head stabbing. It's always with the head stabbing, Blair.
Yeah, it is. And I'm not ashamed.
Spiders and head stabbing. All right.
Yes,
let's go to 2016.
Oh, let's look at 2016.
Moving on up.
I'm getting distracted.
You have a corgi.
Yeah, she's in my lap.
I know.
So
to distract you.
2016. Number 11, Zika. Oh, Zika hit the scene in 2016. There was a Zika brain link. So there was a study looking at neural progenitor cells being infected with Zika and the infection leading to reduction in cell growth and division. But that was also the year that a Zika vaccine was developed, an experimental vaccine, got FDA approved. It's not the only one that works in the works in the US at the time. So there was a lot of trials for different vaccines. So it's kind of the conversation we were having earlier where the ability to kind of learn about these outbreaks happening at home or abroad. But I think also Zika is probably one that caught people in the Western world's eye a little bit too, because it was something that could affect people from the United States on vacation. I do think that had something to do with it, right? Is that all of a sudden
there was
if you're pregnant, don't go to many countries.
Yes, there was not a travel ban, but a travel warning.
Yeah.
And Zika did show up in our southernmost states. So we
like
did
in Florida.
Florida and Texas, we started seeing some Zika. So with that happening, it was also this kind of realization. We started being able to have the conversation about climate change affecting the ecosystem enough that these animals were starting, their habitats are changing, they're spreading.
Yeah.
That they can live in places they maybe couldn't live before.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
That's such a good point, is that it's another reminder that climate change is a human health issue as well as everything else. But number 10 was all about space. Let's see. Keppler Space Telescope detected the shock breakout of a supernova. So this is the first time that we saw the instant of ignition for a massive stellar explosion.
Yeah. Speaking of which, right now, a bunch of astronomers have their eye peeled on Betelgeuse. Betelgeuse? Betelgeuse.
Say Betelgeuse 2 more times. Ooh, 1 more time.
Yeah, it's a big, massive star that has researchers have been watching it for a while, and it just recently dimmed significantly, and so a lot of astronomers right now are excitedly wondering whether it will go supernova, which would be wonderful because then we watch it happen. But it's also, we don't have to worry about all the solar, the gamma rays and everything from the solar flare, not solar flare, supernova. If Betelgeuse does go supernova, our solar wind will protect us. The same,
that's good.
Similar to how our atmosphere protects us on Earth, the sun's influence will protect us from this interstellar radiation a little bit. Nice. But it also won't reach us for a really long time.
So let's see. Also, the Cassini mission explored Saturn's moon Titan, and a new paper came out that year looking at its oceans. It contained a lot of methane. It had a soft bottom and was surrounded by wetlands.
Yeah.
It was also the year of Juno news. So Juno went into orbit around Jupiter.
Yeah, that was the year we had James Donahue on as a guest, and he's a researcher who worked on the Juno mission, and he talked with us about it, which was cool.
And then, let's see, and Juno started sending back images in 2016. Cassini found evidence that there were liquid hydrocarbons in a canyon system on Saturn's moon Titan. Let's see. And so much. There's a lot. Blue Origin news. It lands. SpaceX successfully returned its booster rocket to the water-based landing pad.
That was so cool to watch.
Yes, that was a big... God, that was 2016? My gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. And
2015 was when I moved to Portland.
Oh.
So, okay, yeah. I can...
Wow.
Yeah, I now 2015, I have these little markers in my life. 2011 was when I had Kai. 2015 is when I moved to Portland.
2015 is when I went back to the zoo. So
you went back to the zoo.
Yeah.
Then SpaceX landed.
There you go. It all comes together. 2015 was an important year. Let's see. The Pluvian mountaintops were found to be snow-capped.
Right.
And there were frozen lakes on Pluto as well. Looking at number 9 was intelligence. Oh, slime molds. Slime mold intelligence was 2016. And so they found that they could make strategic, logical decisions and kind of work in concert in these large congregations. They found that also apes can predict that expectations can be different than reality, which is very high concept. Cuttlefish can count. Monkeys make tools. There was generosity found in magpies, and slime molds also crowdsourced memory. So this was a pretty
Ah.
important year for non-human intelligence.
Yeah. Or for us actually going, hey, look at how
Yeah.
much other organisms know how to do. What?
Mhm. Yeah, maybe we're not as intelligent as we thought. Also, number 8 was AI and robots. This was the robot that beat someone at Go, so AlphaGo, created by Google
Oh.
DeepMind. That was in 2016.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then there was an X Prize for $5 million with IBM's Watson group against another to develop and demonstrate how humans can collaborate with powerful AI technologies to tackle the world's grand challenges. I don't remember hearing what happened with that.
It's still waiting.
Yeah.
So many. I mean, that's only a couple of years ago now, but so many of these, I'm like, oh, the potential of this.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm still waiting.
Also, Google DeepMind started learning and reasoning using memory instead of programming, which is terrifying and awesome.
Terrifyingly awesome.
Human evolution. There was updates on our understanding of human migration. Australopithecus coming out of Africa, and there was an understanding about African humans and the Netherlands being part of the equation. So Neanderthals mated with
yeah.
modern humans much earlier than previously thought. So this whole out of Africa theory, well, if this braided stream involved breeding with Neanderthals way earlier than we thought, then it's not so
Yeah.
much part of the deal. Okay, number 6 was all about medicine. We found a novel antibacterial agent, Texobactin, which we've talked about a bunch, I think, since on the show.
Yeah.
And they were able to use it in new trials for antibiotic drugs, but it wasn't actually showed to treat human infection yet. The human microbiome we found there were genes in there that were potential for antibiotics that researchers could use, which is also questionable, but that's fine. I'm sure I raised those concerns earlier. HIV was clipped out of genes by an enzyme. Oh, I loved that story. So
Yep.
they're using it in mice to great effect at this point. Ugh.
And they used it. They used it successfully, I think, on a person this last year. So
Yeah,
it
you're right.
actually
You're
moved
right.
on to human trials.
Mm-hmm. You're totally right about that. So that's something that has moved quite a bit since.
Yes.
Scientists coaxed optic nerve cables, so they were able to regenerate optic nerve cables that were completely severed. And I love this. The 3-parent baby was 2016.
Wow. And everybody went, what's a 3-parent baby?
Yeah, so
and
it
was
is.
like,
It is the nucleus of a female egg that is transplanted into the egg of a donor that has the nucleus removed. The resulting egg is then fertilized with sperm. So this is if you have issues with your eggs, then you can take your own DNA and put it into a donor's egg case, basically. And then through IVF, it's still totally your egg, pretty much, except for some things which, down the line, there would be DNA in there from everybody,
right.
but it would be mostly.
There would be. It has to do with mitochondrial disease. In effect, there are genetic diseases that stem from the mitochondria, and if you are able to use the mitochondria from another egg, all of the machinery and everything, and then put your nucleus in, you'll have the DNA from the egg donor. You'll have your nucleus of genetic information, and then you'll have your partner's genetic information. So technically 3 people's genetic information, but healthy mitochondria so that the disease doesn't set in, and so you can have healthy children.
There you go.
This was one of the stories that came through where I had this complete just double take of how I think of the world compared to maybe how other people think of the world, because I really never considered it a controversial or questionable thing. I was
No.
like, this sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And to go out into the wider world in 2016 and find out that some people
Oh,
are against this kind of
upset.
upset
Yeah.
about it. I'm like, why? I don't understand.
Mhm.
I still don't understand. This is my problem to figure out.
You know, I mean, we could get into a whole thing about what is science allowed to do and not allowed to do, and Justin would say all of it, and I would say most of it, and you'd probably say something similar to most of it.
Yeah.
But there are other people who believe that when it comes
None
to
of it.
human medicine, it's a lot less.
Mhm.
So anyway, also in 2016, gravitational waves.
news!
Yes.
Gravitational waves. It was
LIGO detector
huge.
confirmed detection of the merger of two black holes approximately 1.3 billion years in the past. So we had our
Dave
gravitational
Friedel
waves.
says 2016 is the year that you went to the Celestial Seasonings plant in Boulder, Colorado.
That is true. Yeah. And he had to wear a beard guard so he could go in the mint room. To remember that.
That's
Anyway,
fantastic.
speaking of why you might want to cover up your beard when you go into a food space, number 4 in 2016 was the microbiome and bacteria. So we mapped the bacterial population of the surface of hedgehog teeth for some reason.
No, it wasn't hedgehog teeth.
It wasn't?
No, it was teeth. It was the bacterial populations.
But it looked like hedgehogs.
It looked like hedgehogs.
I was like, what does this mean, hedgehog teeth?
Because of the
No, that's
way
human
that
teeth.
the species of bacteria and the populations within the broader bacterial population, how they organized themselves. It looked it was reminiscent of a hedgehog.
Yes. We also had a story about C-section babies and smearing them with vaginal secretion from their mom and then comparing the microbiomes from vaginally delivered babies. The C-section microbiomes appeared almost normal once that smear occurred, which I have to say, I have remembered this story, and I have a friend who had an emergency C-section, and I was like, oh, did you smear the baby? And she was like,
What are you talking
What?
about? No.
I don't think this is common medical practice yet,
Not
but it makes nothing but sense to me, and I love it.
Smear the baby.
Yes.
That's
And then
right.
there were also conversations about how probiotics could beat cancer and how gut bacteria controls glucose metabolism and just basically microbiome is everything. We also talked a lot about climate change again. Of course, there was the story. I think this was the year where there was the what is it? The funeral for the Great Barrier Reef. Somebody published that, right? And
but
that
it wasn't
was
really dead. And then
it's still not dead, guys.
It's still not dead.
It's still not dead. There's areas where there are percentage mortalities. Coral reefs can come back from percentage mortalities, but you have to reduce stress. So that's what this is all about, is like, hey, Great Barrier Reef is dying. It's not happy. We need to reduce the stress from climate change and other issues so that it can come back. So anyway, this was also I think the year that we learned about how frogs are impacted by climate change due to forest fire. I'm trying to see. I'm not sure if that's exactly why, but it was specifically the frogs are the indicator species for climate change, which they're already indicator species for water pollution. So that's very interesting. Right. It was very hot. There was Antarctic retreat, all that good stuff.
Northwest Passage cleared.
Number 2 was all about, we're back to policy and where science and politics collide. The U.S. Senate ratified a reform bill that changes the decades-old and out-of-date Toxic Substances Control Act, aiming to bring more science into the regulation of new chemicals. So that's really good. The FDA banned 19 specific substances, giving manufacturers a year to phase them out. So that helps reduce our pollution on natural environments. And new rules from the marketing of homeopathic products were released by the FTC.
Yeah, that was cool. That
Yeah,
was great. Yes.
absolutely. And then number one, once again, was CRISPR.
Once again.
Yes. Scientists use CRISPR-Cas9 to repair retinal stem cells. Love that. CRISPR have confirmed a form that cleaves single-strand RNA, which I feel like we talk about all the time now.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that is a big. It's promising because that's one of the potential treatments for people. They think that if they can edit RNA, it may not influence, because of the way it works, it may not influence the immune response as much as the DNA. I think that's one of the things, because of the way that the treatment would work. Yeah.
Yeah. There was a CRISPR for cancer treatment that was piloted that year.
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember that. Mm-hmm.
And Stanford University indicated that it was time to test CRISPR methodology for repairing sickle cell in humans. And the first human trial of CRISPR therapy began in China. So they injected CRISPR or edited cells into cancer patients to determine whether the treatment is received safely and whether it allows the patients to fight off cancer.
Yeah, so that was the year that they did start editing people, or trying to figure out ways that they could use CRISPR in people. They weren't editing germline. They weren't editing embryos that we knew of at this point in time. But yeah. The promise of CRISPR was huge.
Yeah. And then my quote unquote write-in vote for this year was all about sperm. So there was a story, I forgot about this, that suggesting that tRNA hitches a ride on sperm as it travels down the epididymis. Another one looked at seminal fluid from one male had an effect on offspring, even if he wasn't the actual father. So it's not just the sperms, it's the actual fluid it's hanging out in. There were female beetles that would have sex so that they could use seminal fluid because they lived in the desert as a liquid source. And sperm of particular genders followed particular chemical trails in a test where you could potentially pick the gender of your next baby by separating out the chemical trails of sperm. So through a centrifuge or some sort of osmosis layer or something, you could potentially split out male and female sperm. But I haven't heard anything about that. So
Not since, yeah.
No. But otherwise, yeah, it was a good year for sperm.
2016 is a great year for sperm.
Great year for sperm.
Now 2017, I'm going to jump ahead. No. 2017. Oh, that was an interesting one. 2017. Politics and science became difficult. It got tense in 2017. Let me tell you, things started to not seem
Something
like
changed.
friends. Yes.
In 2017.
Something changed. Yes. We'll leave it at that. Moving on, though, looking back into the past. Again, human evolution and the braided stream were absolutely a major part of 2017. Many stories about human origins and various species of humans. I feel like it just has the anthropology archaeology field for human origins, like that, the study of human evolution, it's just ramping up. Like they've just got these finds, and now they've got technology that allows them to look deeper into the bones that they have, so that the evidence they have takes them further into what they can understand about our ancestors. I just feel like it's like on this train that's just getting faster and faster and faster, and we're learning so much more.
I think part of it is because we've all kind of gotten over the braided stream thing. I think for a while there were people who didn't want to believe it. It wasn't a lot, I felt
only
like there was
one
some,
out of Africa.
but we're different from the other hominids that didn't make it. We were the good ones. Now that this is kind of just, it's understood, it's common knowledge now. There was this braided stream. There was intermingling going on at all levels in all places. It allows for a culture shift where you can go, okay, but first we have to check the DNA and see what percentage of what each of these things that we found is. And then from there, we can kind of deduce, like, where did they come from? And, so I think there was a culture shift that had to happen in order to allow for this kind of revolution that's occurring now, which is very
absolutely
interesting.
Yeah. Still a revolution into who we are with stem cells and work into aging. We're looking at stem cell science with teeth, hair cells, and the hypothalamus. And there was a lot of promise for finding youth in old age, rejuvenation, if not complete refreshing or complete oil change. Stem cells had a lot of promise for that in 2017. Cassini ended in 2017. That was I had cried tears. I cried tears at the end of Cassini. It made me sad. I stayed. I got up early in the morning, and I sat and I watched the last minutes of Cassini as long as I could, and I cried. It was sad to me. It was 13 years plus the years that it took to get to Saturn. Cassini was this amazing mission that gave us these beautiful images of this incredible planet and its moons, and it was something that we had never had before, and that, to me, it was pivotal, and I loved it. And so it was sad when it went away in 2017. But Juno, still at Jupiter, the Mars rovers that keep roving, they keep on going, the Voyager spacecraft missions that they're like, we're out of here. We're going to travel, man. They kept going. And so NASA really, it didn't have a lot of new missions in 2017, but the missions it did have were continuing to be very successful and inspiring, and teaching us a lot about our solar system. In 2017, we were able to figure out how to make DNA less prone to errors and better at storing information. What do you say?
Right.
Better at storing information? No, not just genetic information, but stuff we want to fill it with, like that we could use DNA as a code to put the works of Shakespeare away for hundreds of thousands of years. That we could
flash drive.
Yeah, little DNA flash drives. And could we, and if we can get rid of the errors that it potentially has, that would be, which we all know DNA has, thanks to mutations that lead to cancer and disease and all that kind of stuff. Can we figure out how to make those errors less for our information storage? Could that also help us medically as well? Synthetic biology was big in 2017 again. I'm always like, it's big. It's big. This is my adjective, I guess. Researchers advanced yet again. Synthetic organisms built from artificial genetic letters. They used XNA in synthetic organisms to create, and I love this word, it's because I'm important now, artisanal proteins designed by humans. Yes, XNA, human designed for us. We're going to keep going. Gene editing, CRISPR was not the only gene editing technology that was being used in 2017. Zinc finger nucleases which had been used for a long time, actually made a big showing in the research in 2017 from being used in living human beings to help treat disease, to genetic modification of embryos, and additionally, CAR T therapy to treat cancer. And this is the therapy where red blood cells are taken, or white blood cells are taken, T cells are taken out of the body and reprogrammed and then put back into the body to treat cancer. And it has met with a lot of success so far. There have been some issues, but a lot of success with that. Again, microbiome, our health, our guts, our brains, the bacteria are involved in everything. And climatia once again. Yes. It just kept on going. And a lot of studies in 2017. Oh, yeah, that was the year there were a number of studies of old rocks that came out. And it seemed like it was like, no, it's 3.5 billion years ago. No, it's 3.55 billion years ago. No, it's 3.85 billion years ago. Yes, there were many old rocks in parts of our planet, that old bits that have stayed without getting pulled back into the mantle, that have stayed out on the surface, and we're able to see them. And the evidence of old life, we think, is there. And it seems to be pushing back almost to the start of the planet, which is one of the most interesting findings, is if they can confirm it, which we haven't gotten that far yet. It's just been, a couple of studies. But if they can really, really confirm that, yes, indeed, it's evidence of ancient bacterial life and not just a chemical molecular signature from chemical processes, then it means that life got started on our planet really almost as soon as the planet was a planet. Which is cool.
It came from elsewhere.
Or it came... No, I don't know. Maybe.
I'm still with it. I'm still with I'm putting my money in Pamspermia. Pamspermia. That's when a woman named Pam came and just sprinkled a bunch of tardigrades all over the place. No, in Panspermia, I still feel like the Earth is forming. There's all this
cartoon of this
junk just floating around. There's some tardigrades on an asteroid that smacks into the newly formed Earth. That's how we got life.
There you go.
I'm with it.
I like the big space goddess Pam with her sperm shaker.
Pam!
Oh, Pam! Spray some Pam on it.
Oh my gosh.
And gravitational waves, again, were amazing because LIGO met up with Virgo, and then they saw neutron star merger and more black holes, and it's still going. They're detecting things all over the place. But that was 2017. It was yet another big year for science. 2018, give it to us.
Oh my goodness, we're getting so close. I almost remember this. Number 11 was geology. We had new analysis of the crust and upper mantle of the Earth, making us think that the Earth is full of diamonds.
Oh yeah, lots of little teeny tiny molecular diamonds.
Yes. Yeah. And the Deep Carbon Observatory, looking at carbon inside our planet, reported that it looks like there's a lot of life down there. Number 10, all about black holes. We talked about Milky Way's black hole. There's one in there. It's right next door. Astronomers reported discovering black hole mergers in multiple galaxies. And that was a whole what does that even mean? What does that look like? It was fun. And LIGO and Virgo found more black hole stuff all over the place. Number 9 was all about Mars. We found water on Mars, massive underground aquifer on Mars to be specific. Yeah. It looks like perhaps it is full of liquid water. And the InSight lander landed in Elysium Planitia on the surface of Mars sent back some images. Some people said it looked like there was a squirrel, I think. Wasn't that a thing?
Yeah, there's a squirrel on Mars. No,
it's
there's
a
no
rock.
squirrel.
It's a rock. And they started drilling into the surface, taking temperature and seismic readings. Number 8 was our gene drive. UCSD reported the first demonstration of successful gene drive in mammals, and a CRISPR-based gene drive. Now we're really just combining all of the stuff to destroy the reproductive ability in female mosquitoes was successful in the lab. So this was the very long conversation we had about, do we do that? Are we worried about gene drives getting out of control? It's a really cool thing. It's also kind of scary. So it was a whole kind of existential crisis about gene drives in 2018.
Yep.
Number 7 was mini brains. Oh, I am kind of starting to remember this now.
You're like, oh, this is like recent.
Made little gloms of stem cells that were brain cells, and they called them mini brains, which spontaneously began to communicate through electrical signals that were comparable to the brain of preterm babies. So they weren't fully functioning brains, but they just spontaneously, you put all these neurons together and they are just the gray matter, and they're all like beep, 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 beep.
Which is amazing. And I find brain cells are going to do what brain cells are going to do. They're going to fire and wire together, and they want to talk to each other. It's amazing. But I honestly remember this happening this year.
Yeah, right? I mean, it wasn't that long ago.
Oh, it's a year ago. Okay.
And then the other thing that I feel like is happening in studies left and right now is that in 2018 they took these mini brains. So they took, and it was from human stem cells, and they implanted them into mouse brains and they integrated.
Yep.
Which I feel like that seeded a whole field of research just in the past year, which is really cool. Number 6, all about microbiology. No surprises there. We talked about fungus versus bacteria. And we also talked about the sixth sense, which is basically our gut. So the gut, our microbiome, is communicating with our brain by way of the vagus nerve. And stomach bacteria could turn donor blood into whatever type of blood you need. I love this story.
It's once again promising, but we don't know.
No.
This was one of those, this is really exciting kind of studies, but we'll see where it goes. It's potentially amazing.
Talked about evolution. This was one that I campaigned pretty heavily for. There's a turtle missing link found, which of course every missing link is just in between a couple. There's always, anyway, but we're getting a better understanding of where turtles belong in the evolutionary tree. Pretty soon, it might not be a dotted line on the vertebrate family tree anymore. That would be pretty cool.
Yep.
Cholesterol molecules allowed identification of earliest animals, and the question of whether viruses are alive or not was brought up again on the show, because giant viruses have the ability to make and synthesize proteins.
Yeah.
We had a whole bunch of neuroscience stories in 2018 as well. Lymphatic vessels showed to be
the lymphatic vessels
to proper brain aging.
Yeah, we need our brain to drain.
Yeah. Microglia look and act differently in male and female mouse brains. But still cool. Yeah. Men and women, they're different. Sorry, guys. We're biologically different. But, here we go. Alzheimer's. Using human cells, researchers confirmed the presence of a protein that leads to damage that potentially causes Alzheimer's. So using a structure corrector, they were able to fix the mutant protein and reverse its cellular effects.
Yeah. And then in 2019, there were even more studies on Alzheimer's that followed right along with this, that looking at ApoE4 and looking at various aspects. And I feel, I don't know, there's something about where
Mhm.
we are in the Alzheimer's research right now that is, it's tantalizing how
Yes.
close it feels like we are to getting some really good treatments.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're not quite done here, but I feel like
Yeah.
some of the things that are coming to light for me right now is
Yeah.
that HIV, cancer, and Alzheimer's are some things that we might actually see some real fixes for in the next decade. And that is
Yeah.
so exciting. Oh, and blindness as well. That's the other one that kept coming up is we might be able to fix optic nerves in people. That's
Yeah, or retinal cells, you know, with retinal transplants or implants, these stem cell treatments or CRISPR treatments. It's very, very, very exciting. And I honestly say, you know, there's this ongoing thing. Oh, 5 or 10 years. We're going to have that in 5 or 10 years. I mean, maybe not the actual drugs on the market in 5 or 10 years because none of the clinical trials have started, but I feel like the research is getting there to the point where clinical trials will probably start in the next 5 or 10 years and we'll be on the road to some of these treatments. Yeah.
So
Yep.
good.
Yep. I feel like it.
Number 3 in 2018 was all about pregnancy. We had clone monkeys in China. We had maybe CRISPR babies in China. We had an effort to create embryos from stem cells from 2 male mice. It was unsuccessful, but there's interesting things there. And there was a live birth from a transplanted uterus from a deceased donor.
Right.
So
all of that whole suite of stories, those were all very mind-blowing.
Yeah.
those were all what do we live in the future now kind of
Yes.
stories.
Yes. Forget my flying car. I want my uterus transplant. That's tight. That's so awesome. Number 2 this year was in 2018 was about climate change. The IPCC came out with the latest report, which is never good. But there were also some interesting implications environmentally. There were shrinking birds. There was damage to male fertility in insects. So sperm in insects was actually being damaged by climate change. And maybe this is a good thing, but there was an assessment on the economic impact of climate, and it indicated that we have to get moving. Number 1 in 2018 was all about anthropology. There was new Neanderthal art. That was amazing. There was a finger bone that we found that raised a whole question again about migration out of Africa. Once again, braided stream. African origins were multicultural. There were Neanderthal Denisovans that were mixing together. And there were hobbit folk. Remember that? Talked all about these hobbits that were mostly Neanderthal DNA. We found Neanderthals that made sculpture. And there was Neanderthal DNA virus resistance found in Africanus humanus. So basically just a real messy braided stream came to light in 2018. And then as a couple of honorable mentions from the animal corner, we found that some sharks are vegetarian. Oh, I did love that story. And that they could be keystone species due to their fertilizing poop. We also found that spiders have quote unquote milk that they give their babies even when they're full grown and should be leaving the house. They can take the air on electric. They can jump.
Oh, I
with
love
the use of the electrical fields.
Yes, that is the coolest.
Yeah. So, and there were 3D printed corneas as well.
3D printing. Oh yeah, and a car in space.
And a car. Oh, right, that whole thing. Yeah,
that was the year of the
we punted, we drop kicked a car into space. Where is it now? I don't know. Being garbage.
It's in space. Oh, and you know what? We just did 2019 last week, so I'm
Right.
not going to go over it again.
No.
Anyone who wants to hear what we thought about 2019, go listen to last week's episode, watch it on YouTube, find us in podcast. It's on Facebook also, any of these places. Go find last week's episode to find out what we thought about 2019. But I just want to say that overall, climate has been the number one downward spiral over the last decade. But
Yeah.
a lot of other technology and scientific discoveries are really promising and are moving us in wonderful directions for human health, for things that we can do in the world, things that we know about the animals that we cohabit on this planet with. I mean, there's just so much that we're learning. But just beyond that, Justin did some ranking of all of the decades countdowns, and he determined that the number one category of stories over the last decade was NASA and cosmology. That we spent a lot of time talking about NASA and cosmology. And I'm really glad that that has been our number one category for the past decade, that we've had so many stories, because it really is one of those fields, NASA as an institution, but the things that they do, and cosmology as an area of study that leads us to think outward, to look outward, and to hopefully head toward the unknown out of curiosity, and to try and make a better world for ourselves. I think that cosmology and the exploration of space, from its philosophical standpoints, gives us better understanding of who we are as humans. And if that's our number one from the past decade, I think that that means a lot about who we are as people and our audience, what they enjoy, and it gives me hope. It really does give me hope, even with all the fake news and all the misinformation that's out there, that we have something big and beautiful and wild and wonderful out there to look forward to.
Well, and it ultimately means that people are really interested in the big picture and their place in the world, right? And I think that it's to your point about climate change, if you just think about it as this problem that we're facing that has consequences that are important but are not unavoidable, and that we could have a place in this massive special solution. There are things to be learned from all of this stuff that we just talked about that we could put towards a better tomorrow. If it's in fixing climate change, if it's in improving our healthcare, if it's in understanding ourselves better and understanding other planets better, there's so much still to be learned, and there's so much still to be gained by what we've learned already. And I think that I'm excited to see what the next 10 years brings.
I am too. I really am. Every once in a while, I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? It's the same old stories, but it's not the same old stories. There's new stories, there's new discoveries, and the progress, that arrow of progress. We keep moving forward, even though sometimes politically or whatever things change. There is still scientific advancement that is impressive. And like you said, Blair, let's get a better tomorrow.
We can do it. We have to work together. We have to reach across divides we think exist that are manufactured. We have to value all input from all people. And there's so much still to be gained.
Yeah. I did a look back at the interviews from the past decade. And this past year, was the largest number of interviews in a year, I think, that we ever did. I kept the interview. And so if everybody who's watching this show, if you want to let me know how you like that, do you like having all the interviews? Do you want us to do more science? Let us know. I put a push on the interviews because surveys said that you wanted more interviews. So I tried really hard to make that happen. And I will work very hard in 2020 and for the next decade. Am I going to do this for another 10 years? Are we going to do this
Oh,
for
yeah.
another 10 years?
Oh, yeah.
I'll work on it. I'll keep working on it to get us the interviews. I'll keep working on it. Thanks, Noodles. Noodles says that we crushed it on the interviews. We did. It was good. We're going to keep it going. All right, Blair.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you for reviewing the decade with me.
This is very fun.
Thank you for being born this year.
I sprang to life in 2012.
That's right.
I'm so happy that I did.
From
No,
up
actually-
the forehead of her father. No.
If I can be serious again for a second here, this show has completely changed my life because I was in a space before I joined this show where if you had asked me, I would not have called myself a scientist. I may not have even said that science was one of my main passions. I wouldn't have considered myself someone who could talk about science to others or teach science to others. And I had no idea what my career path was. I was shoveling rhino poop and lion poop and I loved it, but I knew there was something else that was next for me, but I didn't know what it was. And just this perfect kind of falling into place of getting on your radar in the right way eventually after getting in the spam filter, and then starting out and learning that the reason I love talking about animals and the reason I love talking to people about animals, it really had to do with the science. And my formal education growing up, I was, very clearly told that science was for boys, and the teachers that I had did not very, very well make the content accessible. I thought I was bad at science. And then in college, it seemed so much better. And I started to understand how interesting it was, but I still had kind of this idea it wasn't for me. And then it was just kind of this it was this understanding that this is what was missing. What was missing was being able to learn together and talk through things together and discuss opinions on sometimes controversial, sometimes not scientific topics without judgment. It has been an amazing journey for me, and science education is my number one priority and identifier now in my life. And I can't imagine where I'd be without this show. So I want to thank you, Kiki, first. But then I also want to thank everyone who listens to the show and supported me when I was just an intern in the background and was supportive of me taking on more of the show. And I'm so happy to be here. And what a decade it's been.
What a decade. Yeah, indeed. It's been good. It has been very good. Yeah. Thanks, everyone, for being a part of this decade. Whatever part you played.
Yeah.
Thank you, Blair.
Thank you.
I'm glad you joined us.
Yeah.
I can't imagine not doing the show with you.
Oh.
So there we go. I mean, although I'm
Been
very sad
lovely.
not to be doing with Justin right now.
I
Where the heck
know.
is he?
He's missing so much delicious sap for the
I know.
holidays.
It's holiday sappy time. Come on. Yeah. All right, everyone. Blair, have we come to the end of another show?
We have. I think it's time to thank some other people by name.
Yes, it is. Thank you to Gord McLeod for helping to organize the chat room, managing it over there. Fada, thank you for helping with show notes over on YouTube with our social media. Identity, thank you for helping to record the show. I do appreciate that so much. And thank you to our Patreon sponsors, who I'm going to pull up in just a second here. This is me getting distracted and not doing the things that I need to be doing. Clicking the buttons. There we go. Thank you to Paul Disney, Ed Dyer, Andrew Swanson, Craig Landon, Ed Stu Pollock, Philip Shane, Ken Hayes, Harrison Prather, Charlene Henry, Joshua Fury, Steve DeBell, Alex Wilson, Tody Steele, Richard Porter, Mark Mazzaros, Jack, Matthew Litwin, Jason Roberts, Bill K. Bob Calder, Eric Knapp, Richard Brian Condren, Dave Neighbor, Taylor P.S., Josiah Zahner, Howard Tan, Donald Mundis, Sarah Forfar, Dan K., Matt Bass, Darwin Hannon, Patrick Pecoraro, Ben Bignell, Gene Tellier, John Gridley, Corinne Benton, Adam LaJoy, Sarah Chavis, Rodney Lewis, Tiffany Boyd, John Bertram, Mountain Sloth, Seth O'Gradney, Stephen Aldebaran, John Ratnaswamy, Dave Friedel, Daryl Myshak, Paul Ronovich, Sue Doster, Dave Wilkinson, Noodles, Kevin Reardon, Christoph Zucknerek, Ashish Pants, Ulysses Adkins, Artyom, Rick Ramus, Paul, John McKee, Jason Olds, Brian Carrington, Christopher Dreyer, Lisa Suzuki, Jim DePoe, Greg Riley, Sean Lamb, Steve Leisman, Kurt Larson, Grudy Garcia, Marjorie, Gary S., Robert, Greg Briggs, Brenda Minish, Christopher Rappin, Flying Out, Aaron Luthen, Matt Sutter, Mark Hessenflow, Karen Parachan, Byron Lee, and E.O. Thank you for all of your support on Patreon. And if any of you out there would like to make the list that I read longer,
Yes.
I implore you to take a look at our Patreon account. That's right. You can find a link over at twist.org, or you can go directly to patreon.com/thisweekinscience. You can also help us out simply by telling your friends about twists. And on next week's show, there's a reminder, we will not be here. This Week in Science is taking a week off next week. So for the new year, we will see you on January 8th.
Yes.
At our usual broadcast time, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Pacific time on YouTube and Facebook, but also at twist.org/live.
Also, on January 16th, we will be in San Francisco for SF Sketchfest. So if you are in the San Francisco Bay Area, or if you want to come out for some of the amazing Sketchfest shows, including ours at the California Academy of Sciences, please buy your tickets now. They are available. We'll send some information out over the interwebs, over our social medias, over a newsletter perhaps, and definitely it's on the Sketchfest website as well. Thank you for joining us tonight, for listening, for watching. We hope you've enjoyed our review. It's just kind of a nice happy hour where we reminisced over the past decade. This is also, it was a lot. There's a lot of science. It's also a podcast, guys. Just search for This Week in Science wherever you get your podcasts. And if you enjoyed the show, please tell your friends about TWIS and leave a review on whatever that platform may be.
Yes.
I can keep going. For more information about anything you've heard here today, show notes will also be available on our website. So we're going to have kind of this Mobius strip where we're going to link in the show to the show where there are links to the stories that we talked about in the years past. So that'll all be on our website. That's at www.twist.org. While you're there, make comments. Tell us if you enjoyed this silly Decade in Review show, and start conversations with us and other listeners while you're there. You can also still order our calendar. There are very limited copies remaining, but please order the 2020 TWIS Blair's Animal Corner calendar. You can also contact us directly. You can email Kirsten at thisweekinscience.com, Justin at twistminion@gmail.com, or you can email me, Blair, at blairbaz@twist.org. Just put TWIS, TWIS, somewhere in the subject line, or your email will get spam filtered into oblivion like mine did. Yeah. You can also ping us on Twitter, where we are at TWIS Science, at Dr. Kiki, at Jacksonfly, and at Blair's Menagerie. We love your feedback. So please, if there's a topic you would like us to cover or address, you have a suggestion for an interview, you have musings on some of the things we talked about tonight, please let us know. Meanwhile, we will be back here on January 8th in the new year in 2020. And we hope that you will join us again for more great science news. And if you've learned anything at all from the show tonight, remember,
it's all in your head.
This Week in Science. This week in science. This week in science. This week in science, it's the end of the world. So I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice. Show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand. And all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. 'Cause this week's science is coming your way. So everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth. And I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got one disclaimer and it shouldn't be news. That what I say may not represent your views. But I've done the calculations and I've got a plan. If you listen to the science, you may just yet understand that we're not trying to threaten your philosophy. We're just trying to save the world from jeopardy. 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 And This Week in Science is coming your way. So everybody listen to everything we say. And if you use our method instead of rolling a die, we may rid the world of toxoplasma gondii. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 Got a laundry list of items I want to address. From stopping global hunger to dredging Loch Ness. I'm trying to promote more rational thought. And I'll try to answer any question you've got. But how can I ever see the changes I seek when I can only set up shop 1 hour a week? This Week in Science is coming your way. You better just listen to what we say. And if you've learned anything from the words that we've said, then please just remember it's all in your head. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in 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 Science.
And that does it for another episode.
Sure does. It does it for a decade.
Does it for a decade. We are in the after show. Isn't this the most hilarious thing you've ever seen? It's a little beer
Yep.
beer coat koozie.
Mhm. That's what that is.
little insulated jacket. He's got little arms.
Oh my god.
I'm dying over here. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. It's the end of the show. I'm opening it. I'm going to have some. I'm not going to drink the whole thing. Just part of it. Just some of it.
Identity 4 says his computer stopped recording the audio at some point.
Oh. Okay. I can get it other places. I will download it from the YouTubes in the morning. Yeah. I will do that or something. Yeah. It'll be okay. I'll survive. We have the backups for your backup.
That's good.
Oh, noes!
That's
good. It is not lost forever. We can do this. It's okay. It's okay. That was your plan as well. Okay, that's good. I will probably not be touching this file until Thursday because of the holiday and travel and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense.
I would like to do the editing on Thursday, but if that is not possible, then that's fine. I'll figure it out sometime before January 8th.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
I'm going to put it out in the middle time. In the middle time.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
Um, Kiki, would you like me to just shoot a very brief, small newsletter out tomorrow? That just has like
forward.
I can just have it be like a very short thing, and then have information about the calendars and Sketchfest. And
yeah, having the
that's it.
Sketchfest in the newsletter would be amazing.
Yeah. I'm probably gonna
But I
replace
can-
Zazzle with Sketchfest as the little like tiny things in the bottom just this time.
Yeah, I have a do I have a link to our specific thing? Because I went looking for like us on the SF Sketchfest website, like exploring the schedule, and unlike last year's, we really weren't on there. And so I reached out to them and I was like, hey, can you like actually put us in your
Yeah, good call.
rundown? I'm like, anybody looking for us, they're not gonna find us.
Yeah.
Dudes.
Silly Billies.
And I haven't. Oh, good. There we are.
Oh, yeah.
We're in there now.
Yeah, we're in there now.
Because we were not there previously. And I believe this one. Yeah, there's a link. But okay, so did you find it?
Yes.
Okay, This Week in Science in the Sketchfest schedule. Because you can use either use that link or
I was gonna link to the nightlife at the Cal Academy. Yeah.
You have to tell people exactly what day because they have to select a date
Right.
when they buy the tickets.
Right.
But it's but this is just
I was gonna link it.
This isn't for nightlife though.
I was gonna link it to this.
Adult.
Here, I'll put it in the chat room.
Continue. Okay, and then you select nightlife.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
And then you select the date. Okay.
Oh yeah, this is a whole process.
It's a whole process. You have to go through and select. Because I landed on the Cal Academy site at first. Was like, wait a minute. It looks like I need to buy. It just wants to try and sell me museum tickets. But I didn't try to click through. It is a process.
Huh? Like, it's like not letting me pick it. Why won't it let me pick it? That's weird. Hey,
did you though? Did you? And then it says subtotal, add to cart.
No, I'm clicking the date, and it's like the website doesn't support my computer or something.
Oh. Try a different browser.
Yeah. Oof. Okay.
Thank you, Identity for that last recoup. I need to take my beer can koozie camping. I feel like I should.
That'd be good, yeah.
Drink it around the camp. Use it to drink something while I'm camping. Yes. Okay. It's complicated.
Okay. Alrighty.
Okay, there's that. And then
yeah, do you want me to just slap something together and send it out?
I would like to write a little thing.
Okay.
So let me see what I can throw together,
Okay.
just as like
I'm
a holiday hello. And then
yeah.
do you already have a mock thing up?
No, I haven't started yet. I was writing my
Okay.
thingy. But I'm
Got
going to
it.
have something
Okay.
by like midday tomorrow. But if you just want to send me words in an email, that's also fine.
Okay. Yeah. That sounds great. I can do something like that. We'll probably I'll
And
see
I
what
can-
I can do. I'll see what I can do as I'm going to sleep tonight. But if I don't get it done tonight, we're going to be on the road tomorrow, and I'll see if I can get some time not driving and I can write it while I'm sitting in the car.
Okay. Yeah, I should be able to get it done if I have it by like 3 tomorrow.
Okay.
But I'm doing my holiday festivities tomorrow night with all the family, so
Yeah.
after about
we're doing
4:30
that
I'm toast.
too. Done. Yeah, exactly. Okay. I think I just have to get up early tomorrow morning.
I have to work tomorrow. So yeah.
That's right. You
I'm going to work.
have teenagers
Yeah.
to hang out with.
Mhm. Yep. So camp is running. Alrighty.
All right.
I'll see you on January 8th
Oh my goodness.
for predictions.
Yes.
And just like one news story, right?
Yeah, one for one for each of us. Yes, that's what we didn't say is January 8th is our prediction show.
Yeah.
Which is fun. I predict it will be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. I've been thinking of reaching out to this woman, Rose. I'm blanking on her last name, but she does the Fast Forward, Fast Future podcast. Yeah. And it's like science based, but like dramatic kind of what if this happened in the future kind of stuff.
Didn't we have her? We had somebody about predictions on the show, I thought.
We did, yes. And her name, I can tell you, Amy Webb.
Ah. Mm-hmm.
And that was in 2017.
I remember some things.
Yes.
Just some stuff.
Yeah, we also one year, how long ago was that? And why do I remember it, but it's not here? I thought we had Tom Merritt on a prediction show one year, but I don't have him down.
We definitely did have Tom Merritt on the show, but I don't remember if it was a prediction show or not.
No, so episode 631 was Tom Merritt, which means that we need to have him back on again because that was 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
What? Am I just bad at writing down what? Maybe I had more interviews and I just didn't keep track of them. Maybe I need to go back and watch every single episode
No. Don't do that. There's much better use of your time than that. You lived it.
Oh man, I did, and it's really, really still. It's very interesting to go back. I feel most of the time like we have some pretty good shows these days. I go back in time and I listen to things from a decade or more ago, and I cringe. Oh God!
That's why you don't do that. It's in the past.
So bad.
Forget about it. It's in the past.
What was I thinking? Yes. We should have, let's see, 2020. I guess prediction show. We can talk about what we want to do in 2020. But I always say I want to do things and then I don't. So maybe I just won't say that. I won't make any statements. Noodles wants more Roger.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We should have more DTNS crossover in 2020.
Absolutely.
That would be fun. Yeah. I was thinking it would be a lot of fun, like as last night as I was falling asleep because I had looked at all of these interview people and other things. I was like, oh, what if we did a daily science news show? And then I was like, we could call it DSNS. And then I'm like, I don't want to do a daily show. And then I was like, maybe we should do a crossover that we call the weekly science news show.
Listen, if we did a daily show, that would mean that would have to be my job. But I would do it.
I know.
I would do it. If we
Yeah.
could. That would be
I
amazing.
know. Yeah, it would be amazing. It would be really amazing. I wish I could make that happen.
You hear that, podcast wizards? Hello?
I dream. I have a dream. Yeah, it would be good. It would be good.
I'd be
Make the
with it.
content. Yes, I would be content
With the content.
with the content. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Goals. It's good to still put them out there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Charles Abroad. Somebody ordered a twist calendar. And Kai was helping me put calendars in envelopes one day. And so one envelope has written on it in Kai writing, "Get ready for Twist Kids in 2020."
Okay.
Yeah. So I think Kai is excited about starting
Oh
the
my
show.
gosh. Wow.
He loves the idea.
That sounds like a
Yes.
lot of work for you, Kiki.
Doesn't it? Like, oh, Kai wants to do a show. That means it's my show that Kai's
Yeah.
doing. Okay, I get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yep, Identity 4. Well, it's written down now, so it has to happen. Oh, Dave, you're awesome. Yes. Someone, that would be awesome. I was also thinking there's this, I look around at empty retail spaces and I think to myself sometimes, it would be so amazing. Maybe I want to start a science venue that's part cafe, part bookstore, science doodad store, but has nightly science infotainment.
Yes. So fun.
It would be fun. It probably wouldn't do very well, but I would enjoy doing it for a while. How do
It
you
depends.
start that?
How
I
good
wanna
how
start
good
that.
are the drinks and how well are they priced? I feel like that's really the question. Because
Yes. Yes.
bring them in for the artisanal beer. Hook them with the science.
Can we call it the H bar? Is that hydrogen? For hydrogen walking into the bar?
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we could call it hydrogen. Hydrogen walks into a...
Perfect.
Was that the only envelope with Kai writing? No, there were a couple of others. There were not a lot, but there's 3 or 4 envelopes that Kai decided he needed to write special messages on. There are a couple of envelopes that Kai decided he wanted to put stickers in.
Okay.
So some people are going to get a sticker or a magnet or something. Kai was helping.
Oh my.
Oh, you got one, Noodles? That's awesome. Yay, you should keep it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, there really aren't that many. Kai didn't write on too many envelopes. That's cool. Flying out's like, oh, I gotta check. Yes, the Science Emporium. I don't know. I've always wanted to have a science salon. It's a salon.
Mhm.
Salon.
We
for
did a salon.
science. I
An
know.
enlightenment salon.
Yes.
That was a long time ago.
I think I could just have a bar cafe place called The Enlightenment.
Yeah.
Yes.
hmm
Yes.
Would it be MINT and then all of the specialty cocktails would be minty?
That's funny.
Is it? I don't know. I don't
don't
think that
know.
it is, and I think that it's time for me to go to bed.
Yeah, you go to bed so we don't stay up too late on a Monday night and you have to
Yeah.
go hang out with teenagers tomorrow.
Yeah.
Have a wonderful family day. Happy
Oh, I
Hanukkah.
will. Yeah, of course. Happy Christmas.
Thank
Happy holiday.
you. Yeah,
Merry all the things.
happy holidays, everyone. Whatever. Everyone. And yeah, whatever or whatever not. You know, whether your solstice is past, your Krampus day is coming, whatever it is. Yeah, have a wonderful night.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, flying out, got one that says twists and has a flower squiggle. Sweet. That's awesome. Thanks for letting me know. I love knowing where those went. Yay.
Oh, that's very funny.
That's so good.
All right.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Have a wonderful holiday week.
Same to
I
you.
will.
Bring me some
Yeah.
calendars, will you?
I will bring you
I'm out. I
like-
sold a couple, so I need 5 more.
like 5. Okay.
Yeah.
I will bring them to you.
Great.
Yeah, I think that is it. The podcast for this episode will come out sometime Thursday or later. And January 8th is when we will reconvene. And then a week after that, I'll be back in San Francisco.
Nice.
Yeah. I have to buy my tickets.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
haven't done that yet.
Yeah. Perfect.
I need to make some money.
And then after that, we have to plan Seattle, but we're not going to worry about that right now.
Until let's talk about it in January.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't do
Yeah.
it.
One thing at a time.
We
I
should
didn't realize
definitely-
how close February was to January when we made that decision. but
I
it's fine.
know. It's really close.
Yeah.
It'll be great.
It's gonna be great.
Okay, newsletter. I will get you a short blurb for
Great.
the newsletter, and newsletter will go out, and we'll have a podcast that goes out, and then we have a thing, and then Seattle in February. There's gonna be a bunch of other podcasters. Maybe we can try and do a podcast get together that's a
Oh, that's
meetup
fun.
we can maybe have people who listen to the podcasts in the areas come.
Yeah, that's very fun. Nice. Alrighty.
I like meetups, but anyway, as long as somebody else plans it.
Yes.
I don't have time for these details. Okay.
Yeah.
Pew! We're going to check out, everyone. Thank you.
Night.
I'm going to click the buttons. Off to sleep, everyone. I'm ending the broadcast, clicking the correct button. Say goodnight, Blair.
Good night, Blair. Say good night, Kiki.
Good night, Kiki. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Merry Twistmas.
Merry Twistmas.